This cavalcade of steam's great might presents to us a wondrous sight of engines now resplendent made from years of harbouring in the shade. They came from yard and field or wood, and in their twilight silent stood, with rusting motion and boiler cold. It was for scrap that they were sold. Then in the summer's sweltering scorch, their end it was the burner's torch. But from some from this grim fate were taken, the slumbering giants gently awaken. With lavished care from owners new, they are but now the chosen few, that represent a lost great power, which we present to you this hour. For these are the engines of an era long past, built by the men whose skills were the last. They made them strong, to give of their best. In aging years, they do not rest. They still drive on with fiery soul and beating heart that scorns control, with burnished limbs of shimmering steel and throb and pulse of circling wheel. With shining paint and polished brass, all of the machines they did surpass. But for all this grace and beauty, they were made foreman's duty. Hauling with ease the team's former loads, up and down the country's roads. Others were the sons of soil, from ploughing to thrashing they eased the toil. Then came the showman, with engines so grand, each thought his the best in the land. Yet with brass and electric light, there came the strength to move the sight. This was part of their calling to man. But what of the homes where they began? Charles Burrell of Thetford, the true Norfolk breed, whilst Ransoms and Garretts were Suffolk seed. Next came Lincoln, its four famous sons of Roby, Clayton, Foster and Rustons. Marshals of Gainsborough in that same shire, they made engines for all to admire. Then, in Cheshire, the land of salt, Fodens were built with never a fault. But with pride, the county of Salop made their sentinels go with a gallop. Further north, in the city of Leeds, Fowlers and McLarens sufficed the needs. From the Garden of England, a prancing horse, Aveling and Porter ran the course. Wallace and Stevens with sprightly 5-ton, Taskers nearby would give it a run. These are a few of the famous breeds, all working the purpose of man's needs. And now to you this hour we bring these engines for their praise to sing. With shrieking whistle and vapour cloud, their aim is now to please the crowd. So let us salute these machines from the past, built by the men whose skill was to last. They made them strong to give of their best. In aging years, they do not rest. Well, there you are, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, everybody on the rally field. Whilst they fiddle with my volume so I don't move everybody out. Thanks, Martin. Perhaps the finest spectacle of steam that you will see today in the British Isles. Yes, I know there's a 7 Valley Railway down the road, but this, we have nearly 90 engines making their way into the field today. And rather than sit in the commentary box and read through a programme, what I will do is what I've done previously in the past year, is take a walk around the arena and talk to you and describe to you about what I can see and what engines there are. So I will start from the right of the commentary box, the right of this white tent. So if you've got your sandwiches from Park Hill Farm just behind, then I am on this side, the right-hand side of the arena, as the engines are going around. So it's quite odd because actually I'm waiting for an engine. Here comes one now. And the parade is led by steam showman's engines. So these are steam engines. They are powered by coal. The coal is burnt to boil water, and that makes steam, such as comes out of your kettle, but you harness it in. You keep it inside, contained within the kettle, which is the boiler, and it becomes like a battery. It's stored energy inside that boiler, and that is used to drive the engine itself, the mechanics of the engine through the pistons and the cylinders, through to the gears, which then drive the wheels along. I won't go into much more detail than that, because there's plenty of books you can get from the National Tracksman Trust and the Road Loco Society who are on site, who will tell you about these things. But that is the basics of a steam engine. There is a boiler here, the cylinders are on the top, the flywheel, which contains stored energy, is going round and round there, and it drives through a set of gears these big back wheels. These back wheels on all of the road engines are there for power. They're also there for speed on the road for engines like these. And I say our parade is led by the steam showman's engine, perhaps the most glamorous and grandest of engines that you will see. But what did they do? The fairground behind you, in the days before the petrol engine and the diesel lorry, these engines hauled the fairground rides. And once they'd taken them to the towns, the cities, the villages where the fair was going to be set up, then they helped sometimes build the rides up. Some of them had a crane fitted on the back, and then they also used this on the front. This is called a dynamo. It's an electric generator, and that was used to drive the electric motors of the rides, but also provide electricity for this newfangled thing called the electric light bulb. So the fairground rides had light bulbs all around them. They wanted to be grand, they wanted to be attractive. So the rides were bright, painted, red, gold, yellow. So were the engines. You'll see the finish on these. These are, as a late friend of mine in Yorkshire would say, not but a piece of kit. It's a tool to do a job, but doesn't it look fantastic? There's no expense spared. You know, these engines, they have gold leaf quite often on the wheels, brass, copper, all sorts of adornments. The twisted brass upstands for the canopies, for the awnings. They don't need to have that to do the job, but in terms of selling the fair, selling the rides, they wanted you, the showmen wanted you to know what the engine was doing, what their rides were, and then really attract you and entice you to ride on their fairground rides rather than the ones of their competitors. So here, Henry Thurston's at Rugby, Royal Scenic Railway. The Scenic Railway wasn't like you get from Shrewsbury to Birmingham and Wolverhampton with a horrible modern train. It was a roundabout style ride which went up and down and all over the place. Quite tame by modern standards, but in the early 20th century it was one of those things that you had to do. So the showman's engine there, it's what's called a road locomotive. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's very powerful, it's fairly fast, and it's there for hauling the loads and driving the fair. A derivative of the showman's engine is this here, the steam tractor. So the steam tractor was a bit more like what you might say the Ford Transit, the Mercedes Sprinter of its day. These are smaller engines, they are fast, they're light, they're nippy, but again it has the generator on the front so that it can provide electricity, but it's moving the smaller rides. So the road locomotives will move things like the gallopers, the waltzer, the skid, all the big fairground rides. And the smaller steam engines, they will move the tractors, they will move the sideshows, the hook and duck, the juvenile rides, the little swing boats, that sort of thing. And they all had, again, the same degree of decoration, and they had very grand names as well. So Princess Royal, Endurance. Some of them were named after the rides or attractions. So there is an engine in the fairground there called Raja, and Raja was named after a lion because it toured a menagerie. And bear in mind the early 20th century, you know, wild animals, you didn't have zoos as such, you had a menagerie, and it travelled around the country. Bostock and Wanwells, who had that engine over there, named their two engines after Nero and Raja, the lions. So the showman's engine, it's powerful, but it also looks smashing. You know, I said about the advertising, electricity being new, so Poole and Bosco's Electric Coliseum here on Fermoy, Electric Coliseum. It's trying to sell that idea to you. This is electric, this is something new, this is something exciting, come and have a go. These engines were made by a variety of manufacturers, as the poem said. You know, we've got the variety here in front of me. The first and second engines are Burrells of Thetford. This tractor is a Garrett of Leiston in Suffolk. We've had another Burrell behind us. These are variations on a theme, and they've all got different stories to tell. Many of them have spent long years in dereliction before becoming into preservation, and certainly engines like Endurance and Fermoy here have had very long renovations in recent years, and this is probably the first show in Shropshire, certainly the first show that I think Endurance has attended full stop since its restoration, and you will see they are a testament to the owners of these engines, the Goddard family with Endurance, Stuart Phillips and friends with Fermoy here. Blatant plug, if you want to know more about Fermoy, go and buy the Old Glory magazine, currently out this month. There is a story of how Stuart and family have restored Fermoy. Really good read, and again, real part of that human story. So, what else have we got across the top of the arena? As you can see where I'm standing, in the way of getting in the way of this gentleman's photograph, there's a steamroller coming through. So there are different types of steam engines. We start with the showman's engine, but the steamroller is perhaps the best known because there were so many thousands of them making and maintaining the roads of Britain. And these engines quite often had a lot longer working life than you think. So the showman's engines, the last showman's engines finished work in the UK in the 1950s. So post-Second War, Birmingham Onion Fair, there's still Pat Collins at Bloxwich is taking his rides to the fair with a steam engine. Steamrollers, they are in use with some councils and contractors right through the 70s, a couple into the 1980s. Sussex County Council had a steamroller that they were using until 86, and some county councils still have steamrollers stashed away as a little bit of a pet, something for them to play with. So the steamroller, we talked about the steam tractor. Here comes the steam tractor here. This one made by Fowlers of Leeds, Lord Dovedale, the Coke family. Dave Coke on the bookplate there. That is your Ford Transit. So take away the bling of the showman's engine, strip down, that's what you've got there. It's a fast thing, it's light, it's 5 tons capacity, well, so 5 tons all over weight, so you can get past the legislation, and it can go pretty fast. That's what you want when you're delivering things because of course time is money. We look at these engines now and think of them as lovely things that we can enjoy, and they're all very pretty, but if you've got to earn a living with one, you want to make sure that it does the job that you've paid the company to make it, that it'll do exactly what it says it'll do. You might want some fripperies, you might want to call it after your wife, daughter, son, cat, but it's still a machine. But perhaps after the steamroller, the most general what you expect here is an agricultural engine, Elsa there with Stuart Tomlinson driving, and appears to be my daughter Charlie steering it. I wondered where she got to, so that's nice to see. But yeah, keep it in the family. Next generation is my daughter Charlie. I'm going to embarrass her, but that's my prerogative as a commentator. But also nice as a young lady's involved. But that's what's called an agricultural engine. And agricultural engines were used on farms for threshing the grain, for sawing timber, hauling stone, doing all sorts of general work, crushing and whatever. And then we couldn't be in the county of Salop, Shropshire, without mentioning these fine machines. This is a Sentinel steam wagon. They were made in Shrewsbury. Some of you will know the Sentinel works. The Sentinel always spelled wagon with a double G, so they're wagagagagans. But very special machines there. A real turn of speed, because by the time the Sentinels are coming in, the petrol lorry is starting to get in as competitors. So the Sentinel lorry is made with the engine underneath. This one has a chain drive, others have a prop shaft like a modern lorry. You'll see those as they go around, and they can hold their own with modern traffic because they have to. It's the only way they can make it work. Another steam tractor coming up the middle. Lots and lots of engines. So I'm going to keep walking, because as the afternoon progresses, as the parade progresses, the engines will all move around and you'll see them at different points. So you'll get me again, so get your tomatoes ready to throw them, but moving on away. I'm not going to spend these, but just working past our hard-working arena marshals who are taking a well-earned rest, because, to be fair, they worked their socks off for this event this weekend. So thank you very much, Steph and team, and Tony, wherever he is. And down to the top of the arena, walking past another Boral Showman's engine, Dreadnought from Francisco, a very well-known engine, regular at the majority of the Shrewsbury Steam Rally. Once again, that Boral style of the look, and it's really good to contrast it here with the John Fowler engine Evening Star. So this is a Fowler road locomotive, Fowler made from Leeds, made in Leeds, not made from Leeds. You can tell it's a long weekend. But Fowlers have a different style. You can see some people say it's a little less ornamental, but still a very straightforward, very strong engine. I actually have a preference for Fowlers, not because my wife is from Yorkshire, but I've always liked the look of them. They're a little bit less fancy, but you can tell that they're Fowler engines because they have the coat of arms and Leeds here, Pro Reggae and Leggy for King and Country. Of course, these engines were made when there was a king on the throne, and I was picked up yesterday for my poor Latin knowledge, so that was told me last night of what that actually stands for. So I've done my homework. But this engine presented by the Priester family, again a regular at our shows, and really nice to see. And actually, in real terms, this is a lot more of how an engine would probably have looked, because you think about it, it's a mobile generator. It's a tool to do a job. It is still clean, it's still well maintained, but you can see there's little bits of wear on it because they wouldn't have time to repaint it between jobs, you just keep going. But nonetheless, little feedback there, still a very fine engine. And actually another contrast here with the Badger, which is a road locomotive, which you can see through this gap. So this is a Showman's road locomotive. The Badger is a road locomotive, so that is a Showman's engine with all the bling taken off. It doesn't have a dynamo to make electricity, but it still is a fast engine, and it has springs which enable it to ride on the roads much faster. So Tranip here, also the Showman's style engine, similar again to the Boral. You can see the contrast between, well, not the contrast, the similarity between the Badger behind it and Sopranic here. Things like the shape of the chimney top and the shape of the cylinders and all that, they are what we call Boral style within the traction engine world. Another incarnation of the Showman's engine is Yorkshire Bell here, down from Cumrock with Tom French and family. This is a true measure of the appeal of Shrewsbury Rally. I've now moved on to the top side of the arena, down towards the prams and the coffee, so just so you know where I am and what I'm talking about. Yorkshire Bell next to me here is a legacy of the appeal of Shrewsbury Rally. I can see we're 5-6 deep round the rally, so people come from all over to see the show. Hiya, all right. People come from all over to see the rally, but they also come from all over to attend the rally. Cumnock isn't exactly close. It's up in Scotland, a little bit in Ulster and Girvan, Ayrshire, and Tom and family brought 2 engines down to us this weekend. But really great to see them with us. So we've moved from the out-and-out showman's engine now to the road locomotive. We saw the Badger in through the gap, but here are a couple of superb examples of the Fowler road locomotive. They're big. Look at the size of those back wheels. They're massive. These things are fast, they're powerful, and they look fabulous. Foremost was made Charles Openshaw haulage from Tractors Reading. Who wouldn't want to have your loads moved by something looking as fabulous as this? Now this engine ended up with a working life in France of all places and was discovered in a barn about 20 years ago. It was brought back to the UK, one of those classic barn finds that you see on the telly. I was asked yesterday if I was one of the people from Baggers and Cash. Sorry, not yet, but I await my calling. But Joe Walker and family on the engine undertook extensive restoration on it, and also the research. If you look inside the roof, you see all the decorations up inside there, inside the canopy. It doesn't need to look like that, but that's how Openshaw did it. And Joe and family got it just right. But another classic road locomotive is behind us. Yeah, I've got a question. How does it work? You'll have to go and ask the owner. I don't know. I can only afford a man. He'll tell you. If you go around to the plant, all the owners of these engines will be happy to tell you all sorts of details about them. They know them far better than I do. And yeah, no problem at all. This engine here with Coulson's on the roof. Coulson's at Park Royal were a well-known haulage contractor in the UK in the interwar period. This engine was very well known for moving things like transformers and other stuff, construction, big civil engineering jobs in the 30s up in Scotland. This engine was moving loads from London up to the north of England, was involved in a couple of famous incidents and accidents because it's quite dangerous when you're moving dirty, great things around. And it's been photographed in its working life extensively. There's loads of pictures of it doing the job that it's done. But it ended up in Germany in recent years and was brought back to the UK by David Shalmerdine and family. And they present it to us today as, I think, one of its first rallies after restoration. So you see the quality of the paintwork on it and the features on it as well. So bear in mind this is working in the 1930s. There is a pulley comes off the flywheel here, drives up to a dynamo hiding up in the roof, and he's got a leg. Oh, I thought the battery gone for a minute, because the electric light. I'm losing my battery, Martin. I think I might have to come back. And there's James with his ice cream. I've got my ice cream here. Just to say, Martin at VS, I think I'm losing the battery on the radio mic. Never mind. But I'll keep walking until it runs out, and then you can all breathe a sigh of relief when I've stopped blathering. But this engine is a real tribute to the Shelmerdine family and how it comes today. Another of our long-distance travellers come down from Aberdeenshire is Mr. James West and team with Buster. James has had this engine well over 20 years. He was indeed a very young man when he bought it, and James, like many of us, has had to suffer his engine being in pieces for decades before he's got to enjoy the pleasure of it. I think this is why he's having the pleasure of an ice cream here now. James has something of a thing for ice creams. If he drives an engine, he has to have an ice cream. Some engines run on coal, James runs on ice cream, but it's fantastic to have him here. It's only Buster's second year out, and it's brilliant that James has made the effort.
Anthony,
yes.
Your boss told you. Your battery is perfect, sir. You were running at full levels.
Oh, that's okay.
So you must be in a dead spot.
Oh,
right?
the poor visitors. They've got to put up with me all the way around.
I know. Carry on the good work, please.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Martin, as well. Yeah, James has just advised me that this is the furthest west that Buster has ever been, because Buster was new to Essex County Council and worked its entire life in the east of England. And James himself is indeed an Essex boy as well as the engine. And in fact, it's an East Anglian crew today, because with him is Robert Pumphrey, who is president of the East Anglian Traction Engine Club. Is that right, Robert? Past president of the East Anglian Traction Engine. Currently membership secretary, who I know my subs to. James is also involved, and the vice chairman of the Bon Accord Steam Engine Club. So this really is not quite international, but it shows the true depth and breadth of interest in steam engines across the UK. We've got Ayrshire, Aberdeenshire. We've even got engines that had their working lives in Ireland. There's all sorts of machinery around us. We talked earlier, we saw, many of you have seen the military vehicles that came in. We didn't have any tanks today, but this engine has a link with tanks. You'll see on the front of it is made by William Foster and Company of Lincoln. And here, on the bottom of the ring on it there, is a little tank. No jokes from a lower about Lieutenant Gruber and his little tank, but why is there a tank on the bottom of the maker's plate? Because Fosters of Lincoln made the first tanks in the First World War. So every steam engine that they then made after the First World War, throughout the 1920s, 30s and 40s, had a little tank on the front of it to acknowledge the company's role in the First World War and the creation of the armoured fighting vehicle we come to know as the tank. This engine is owned by Tipper Bosworth and family, and comes down from Derbyshire, but was originally new to County Durham. They took it back for its 100th birthday to County Durham, not a million miles from where I live, and it appears to be on the top of a mountain. I think I'm just being summoned by the chairman for a minute, so ladies and gents, in a few seconds' time we're going to let Wolverhampton and the Black Country, if not Birmingham, know where Shrewsbury is. We're going to have the engines will all be blowing their whistles. So if you have dogs, small children, partners, significant others, anybody with sensory issues or challenges, please do cover your ears, because this will be loud. I'm going to cover my ears because even after 30 years it still does my earlobes in. So I will count them in on 3, but if you are ready, please either remove yourselves or your dogs to a bit of a distance or cover your ears. So, ladies, gentlemen, crews of the field, shall we have a go at letting Wolverhampton know where we are? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.